I was on mute. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our first Premier League preview after a win in, well, way too long anyways. Way too long. But I tell you one thing, though. My mental health, up there. Cheers, Chelsea. Why did it take so long? But better late than never, I suppose. A lot to get through today because, we haven't really gone in-depth on the whole Mason Mount saga, but considering Graham Potter spoke about it today, Jacob Steinberg revealed some news in his article last night. I think it's about time we take a bit of a deep dive. I hope Pice is willing. Last time we tried to speak about it, he was like, I better not speak about it, otherwise we get into a fight. Don't worry, bro. I won't fight you. But a lot of other things to discuss. Was this the turning point? Yeah, gee, what happened there? It's gone mental. We'll fix that in a minute. But in the meantime, was it the turning point, beating Borussia Dortmund? Well, if it was, we better flip and prove it tomorrow. Because arguably, it's one thing turning up for a Champions League night, the one last game that anything really mattered in for the season, had we not won. It's a very different story now being back in the Premier League, where we essentially have nothing to play for. Do we turn up again? Can we win another game? Or is it back to what it was, arguably against Leeds, but even more so before Leeds? That's what we will discuss. Another few injuries or minor issues that keep players out of the game tomorrow. So we will get to those things as well as a few other bits and bobs of news. Before we get to the new guest, who you guys might not know, unless you've known me for a very long time, because I've known Ahmed for a very long time, but we will get to him in a minute. Let me start off with Pice. Pice, thank you for being back on. What a so much more happy circumstances to talk to you, because obviously you were at the game on Tuesday, and I haven't spoken to you on a stream face to face, arguably, conversation since then. How things change, how things feel different after a win like that, don't they? How do you reflect on it a few days later, mate?
Yeah, glad to be back on, bro. It was a very, very good game. I was buzzing. It was everything that I hoped would happen in my heart. Maybe not my head, but everything that I had hoped for before the game in my heart truly happened. We went out there to give it the Graham Potter phrase. The boys did actually give everything. It was that occasion where you can actually say that. So yeah, it was a really, really good performance. I mean, there was so many players that just played literally not even good, well above good, amazing. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even like there was 2 or 3 players. It was 6, 7, 8. You could argue the whole team pretty much played to a very high level. 1 to 11, we were just fantastic. We seemed like a team. We seemed like a unit again for once. And yeah, I mean, Graham Potter was much more lively on the touchline, which I love to see. He was trying to make a connection at the end with the fans, and I have to tell you that the fans at the end, it was the best I've seen it in a long time. I can't remember the last time they played that One Step Beyond song at the end of a game, where everyone sort of dances around, and just seeing it back. Even I thought it was great to be there, but seeing it back on highlights and stuff. Wow, the atmosphere was just as good. It sounded just as good on TV and on the highlights as it did in the stadium. It was sensational. Yeah, I mean, there was obviously a bit of controversy with the penalty and stuff, but who cares? We got the job done, and yeah, just really happy with the players, and like you said, now just got to build on it. 2 wins in a row. This could be the turning point. So yeah, just consistency now, I think.
There you go. And that's the big, I guess, key words, consistency, because I mean, obviously, if we just turn up for every remaining Champions League game now of the season and we win the Champions League but finish 10th in the Prem, I think from this point onwards, as much as it's at the start of the season would have been ridiculous to say we'd finish 10th, I mean, we'll bloody take it. But obviously, in terms of seeing some progress, and after pretty much all of us have turned Potter out a couple of weeks ago, if we go on to play really poorly, let alone drop points again tomorrow, well, then you're like, okay, so the players turn up for Dortmund and we play the system that they've been playing in for 3 years, rather than that it has much to do with Graham Potter. Now, is necessarily dropping points tomorrow a 1,000,000% guaranteed proof of that? No, it wouldn't be. But it's a sign that, unfortunately, with how the fan base is going, and that includes me since a couple of weeks, we want to see something. We don't want to sit here and say, okay, we scraped the win against Leeds. We played really well against Dortmund, but still needed a good bit of luck to actually win the game, to actually go through, and then go to Leeds and then drop points again. So it's not what we're here for. It's not what we want at all. Like James Doran said, please, ladies and gentlemen, do hit that like button. I'd massively appreciate it. And subscribe if you haven't already. That also be fantastic. Finally, let me get to you, Amit. I mean, we've known each other for a long time now. And I said to you, well, as I asked you to come on the stream, not really sure why I haven't asked you before, to be honest. And I will just repeat the joke because, earlier it's just you that saw it. So it's probably because of his awful ball knowledge. But, you are here to prove me wrong today. I mean, thank you for coming on. I have no idea how well your microphone will work because you just about managed to join as the timer before the stream was running out. So let's see if we can even hear you. But first of all, thank you for coming on. And secondly, short summary of your thoughts until Dortmund of everything that was happening. And if at all anything has changed with that Dortmund game in your mind. Oh, well, we can't hear. Brilliant. Didn't that go well? Well, I would recommend you see the settings button at the very bottom. Click that and then hit the audio thing. And then where it says microphone, select, and maybe you can select a different microphone. And that's why something's not working, because if the microphone's not working, well, it's going to be fine. But yeah, you try that. Otherwise, maybe you'll have to disconnect and join again or whatever. I'm sure you can figure out. As long as you hear me. If you don't hear me, then we have major issues. You haven't used StreamYard before. If you look at the right side of your screen, there is a thing called private chat. So if you click on that and then right in there, only me and Pice can see that. So yeah. Oh, he's disconnected. So Pice, I'll go straight back to you. We will go into more detail of that in a little bit. But do you feel like that Dortmund win could have been a turning point? Or do you feel like what we kind of fear, I guess, that it was just, okay, the team turned up for a big game?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a difficult one. I think it could be a turning point, but I'm not. I mean, I guess it's just we have to see now on the upcoming games. I think, a large portion of me just thinks it was the team turning up for a big game and because it's Champions League. But who knows? I mean, it would be a typical Chelsea thing to beat Dortmund and then lose to Leicester. But I'm hoping, I'm positive. I mean, the reaction we saw at the end of the game, I feel like it's a bit different between previous times, because even when, previous squads turned up for big games, it's not like we was on this bad of a run in the Premier League. Maybe we had some dodgy results, but the fact that we've been so bad and then we produce a performance like that, hopefully that just gives everyone a lift and we can just play a lot better. Because I mean, it's a difficult one, because in some games we've actually played all right and we've just drawn, and then other games we've just been absolutely awful and just got battered, or just lost 2-0 but been just terrible. The Spurs game was the worst game I've ever seen from Chelsea. I cannot believe you can get up for Dortmund and can't get up for Spurs. That sort of thing is yeah, just that worries me a little bit. But I'm positive going into tomorrow. I think there's a few players out, but it's a chance as well for the players, maybe some players which we'll discuss later, to come in and claim their spot, I guess.
Exactly. Absolutely. And who doesn't love a positive Pice? We don't get to see it every day. So when we do, we have to soak it up. Amit, I think the microphone will work. By the way, when I mute you, that's just because sometimes you can hear background noises of the microphone while you're not talking. So now unmute yourself. And if you remember the questions that I was asking you 2 minutes ago, answer those. Basically, what did you think about the situation until Dortmund, and have things changed for you with that Dortmund game, or is it still a big question mark in where do we go from here?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on. And my thoughts going into the Dortmund game, I think everyone else was basically Potter out, but I still had a bit of hope. I didn't want to jump the gun too soon, and personally, I still think he can be with us for a few years at the minimum. He's shown that he can build a decent side, given a few resources, and and going into that Dortmund game, I thought we'd lose, but so did most people, I guess. And I was just really quite impressed with how the team was set up and how he got them all playing. And even coming into that second half, both for Leeds and Dortmund, we started on the front foot, I believe. So yeah, it was just quite impressive to see.
There you go. See, you were saying, well, hopefully the people don't dislike me because it's your first stream, and now he comes out and says he always rated Potter. you don't help yourself, bro. There, no, I'm joking. Because if what you're saying is true, and because even though we've known each other for a long time, we don't like necessarily talk on a like daily basis. So I don't know if what you're saying. I'll just obviously take your word for it, but. You know, for all I know, you could have been screaming Potter out 2 weeks ago, and now you're here saying you've backed it all the time. But if you have, well, to be fair, Tuesday has, I'm sure, made you look a little bit smug. But now I guess it's just a question how it goes on from here. I do agree. Joe, by the way, shout out to yourself. What a great performance against Dortmund. Definitely a turning point. Yeah, so we all hope, mate. So we all hope. And not just a turning point for a week, but please a turning point for a little while, because my God, do we desperately need it. Obviously, the Champions League draw for that quarterfinal takes place next Friday, with the remaining quarterfinal opposition, I suppose, being decided next week. So we have still a little bit to go on that sense. But like I say, Premier League, Leicester tomorrow. And Leicester, Pice, you talked about this a couple of weeks ago when you asked, who do we actually play after Dortmund? And for some reason I had it in my mind, so I put it in a group chat and was like, Leicester. And he was like, well, you never know what you're going to get with those. And it's true. Like, what, a couple of weeks ago, they battered Spurs 4-1, but then they lose to, like, Southampton or something? Like, they're a weird opponent to play against, no?
Yeah, they're like us a bit, to be honest. Leicester away, like, it's interesting because almost every time we play them away, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to play this game. And then sometimes, like, I watch it and we just beat them easily. And other times we just don't. So it's like, it's one of those. We're very rarely, I don't think we're very consistent there, but we have got a few wins over the years. I can remember a few. I think there was a game where Rudiger scored twice. I can't remember. We actually won 3-0, I think, last year. I think Kante scored a screamer. I remember that goal. So we've not got a bad record there.
No, it's true. I agree with that. Remember that cup win as well that we had a while back?
Yeah, we're not got a bad record there. I just think I don't know. I don't know. I've always rated Leicester, even when they were terrible under Rodgers. I was saying to a few Leicester accounts that I speak to, like, I think, look what Rodgers has done overall. I think you should stick with him because they wanted him to be sacked. And I was I was at least saying to him, hey, look, at least you've got some background work at your own club to go by. So just stick with him. And now they're doing a bit better. So, I mean, I haven't actually looked, but I'm not sure if Maddison's back tomorrow. If he is, that's obviously a big threat for them because he has been injured. Not too sure on that. But it'll be a tough game. It'll be a difficult game. They've got some players.
Think about this. Let me see. Midfielders. He doesn't say anything about injured on here, so he might be back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is the case. So let's just assume he will be back, and we need to figure out a way to not get mugged off. I've always been one of those people that haven't rated James Maddison as highly as others have, purely because I'm like, well, how often have we seen players do well at slightly lesser clubs, and then as soon as they come to a bigger club, they kind of fade out very quickly? And I just feel like Maddison could be one of those if he did go to a bigger club. At the same time, Leicester, over the last couple of years, were quite high up. They beat us in the FA Cup final. Like, they won cups. They won their Community Shield as well in, the following summer, I suppose. And obviously they won the league many years ago, but then James Maddison wasn't in the squad. So, yeah, I'm not sure if everyone agrees with this, but that's always the feeling I've had with James Maddison. Maybe I'm doing him an injustice. I will also be honest, I don't watch Leicester every week. So, this is more me just saying what I think, my gut feeling, rather than a purely, perfectly judged opinion. Are we doing predicted lineups? Yes, Mason, we will. Well, a mix of predicted lineups and actually telling you what we would like to see alongside what we think Potter will do. Pice, I think it's about time we get into some news. The question is, what do we start off with? I do quickly want to go through this N'Golo Kante story as well, and I might as well now. I only managed to, when you sent it yesterday, I only managed to actually read the first tweet of it. So I will be surprised as some people watching now. But this is a crazy story. Just as by, glancing over it, I was like, what happened? How's this happened? And I felt bad for poor old N'Golo. On that note, I should tell you, unfortunately, he's still not quite ready to play tomorrow, but not exactly surprising. He's been in training for like a week now, and he was injured for over 6 months, had surgery. So, like, you don't just take a week of full training to be back fit and ready to play. But maybe he will be involved against Everton. And if not, after the international break, I'm pretty sure he will. Although, if Didier Deschamps calls him up for the French national team and plays him, I will fly to France and punch him. So, that is a conversation for later on. But yeah, let's quickly go through this tweet because it's a bit mental. And then if Pice has anything to elaborate on, he can. Before Amit shares his thoughts as well. A year before becoming world champion, Kante is a victim of an ambush. While enjoying moments in a restaurant at Hors de Seine, he was invited to get into a dark vehicle where a pistol was placed on one of his knees. Your agent, you either leave him or we shoot him. Kante denies the scene after telling several relatives. I'm not sure what denies the scene is supposed to say, but regardless, continued. Kante on the phone whilst warning him of this article can be summarized. Nothing has happened for all this time and I have nothing to add. I'm quite discreet and focused on Chelsea, where I'm very happy. A teenage friend summarizes, you can't go to the best from the best number 6 in the world to anonymity without there's nothing behind it. In the Blues, we like to let it slip that Kante is always smiling, that he always sends the same kindness back to Cobham. Unfortunately, I think Pice was slightly harshly done by auto-translate on some of these sentences, but not much you can do about
you
it.
can. There's a bit if you click show more as well. There's a bit on the end, I think. It lets me tweet a bit more now. Just shows a bit more.
Behind the scenes, the picture is less shiny. A very simple word often comes back sad. And I'm not sure where exactly you said it, but apparently a friend of his says that he can't wait to basically until he can retire. I'm like, well, if you wanted to retire, you could have retired now. Would have saved Chelsea 290k a week. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, it's a crazy story. I guess I don't know for sure. Do we know for sure how quite true it is? But it's mental regardless. Poor Kante. All these things happening to poor little Kante. But then I guess it poses the question, do those types of things happen to more people in football and we just don't know about it? It is a crazy world, and people that think everything's just lovey-dovey in football, well, you've got something coming for you if you think that. But anything to add to this one, Pice? Not much, other than that it's crazy, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got sent it by one of my followers, I was like, he said, like, this is crazy. Like, you should read this. So I had a while getting it translated because it was behind the paywall. But the article was like 25 pages long. Basically, it goes from his like upbringing to like where he is now, and it's like a story basically, telling everything, and like some stories like the one I tweeted there about like supposedly the pistol being placed on his knees. I think he's had quite a lot of trouble with like agents and stuff around him. I think especially when he made the big move to Chelsea, and also Leicester. Like when he left France, it was like there was a lot of people around his circle trying to supposedly like take advantage of him because he was always like really kind and humble and this type of thing. So I think they mentioned how the guy that supposedly put his, the pistol, whatever. I think he's he's like discreet now. He can. There's a lot to it. But yeah, supposedly this happened, and yeah, he's what else was in it? It said, yeah, he really misses Rudiger at Chelsea because they used to pray together and like they were like best friends apparently. And yeah, he lives a really discreet life. But I think the whole like saying of it, or the whole like meaning of it, was like that's like a cover up to what's gone on with him. It's quite a sad story, apparently. And yeah, I mean, the last tweet which I posted out, one of his friends supposedly was saying like behind the scenes, he's quite sad and all that. So, he tries to put on a smile at Cobham and all that, and everyone knows him as like the smiley guy. But yes, it's quite sad to be honest. I did message one of the journalists to like get some more context and who posted this, and he just said like, thanks for sharing. Like, it's sad what's happened to him. So, I mean, I didn't catch everything in the article because it's literally like 20,000 words. But yeah, it's a big kind of like an exclusive deep dive, I guess, into Kante's life.
It's crazy. I guess what I haven't done, I should maybe click the show more up here. Or did I already have that earlier? I might have done. By the way, now it's gone. But as I saw here a second ago, it said Ian Wright. Can anyone, either you two boys or someone in the chat, tell me why Ian Wright has decided to not do Match of the Day tomorrow?
Right, so Gary Lineker has been essentially fired by the BBC from Match of the Day because he posted Basically, he gave a political opinion on his Twitter account about refugees coming into England, and you're not supposed to do that apparently on the guidelines of BBC. And he's been fired from it. And now Ian Wright's saying, "I'm not doing it. I'm standing by him." All the journalists and pretty much everyone has said like it's his account sort of thing. Like, it's not that deep. But yeah, he's not doing.
Also,
much
hasn't Lineker consistently posted about political situations? I swear I've seen the guy.
Maybe that's why this
talk
is
about
like the end
political
of it.
things 20 times. Sorry?
Yes, well, he's going to leave at I think I don't know when, but he's supposed to leave Match of the Day soon. But now they've like said, it's being brought forward because of this situation. I don't think. Well, Ian Wright's not doing it either. He's tweeted that out, and yeah, all the journalists are sticking by Gary Lineker basically.
There you go. I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, rather than throwing you under the bus and asking you to pull something out of your ass about this kind of situation, what else can you add than what we've just read? How about we take a look at this Mason Mount situation, and Pice will update us if there's anything that isn't part of his tweets that I'm going to bring up. But I mean, I'll start with you. As a quick summary of myself, again, Pies can correct me if I'm wrong in a minute. But what I find weird about this whole saga is how the words and the reports keep changing about what apparently the situation is. First, it was like, well, he wants basically 300 bags. Then it was like, okay, he wants 250 bags. No, well, first it was then a contract length is the issue. Then it was like that he wants the same as Reece James. And now he apparently turned down £180,000 a week and wants to feel valued and wants something similar to Reece James. So, yeah, because didn't we already have reports that he turned down a contract proposal on similar terms to Reece James, and now they're saying that's what he wants? I honestly don't know anymore. But Graham Potter also spoke about it today. I did actually want to bring up one of those tweets as well, but seemingly I haven't. Not sure how that's happened. Here it is. Graham Potter spoke about it as well today. He said, "I'm not naive, and I know it's an important contract for him. These things have to be right for him and his family, and it's important he makes a decision on that basis, as he wants to stay out of it, as it is complicated," which I found very interesting because Potter has been a very diplomatic character so far. So for him to word it the way he did, it's interesting. I don't think he worded it clear enough to read anything conclusive into it, but there's certainly some reading between the lines you can do, and then it's a question how each individual takes that. But I mean, what are your thoughts at this point? Do you see Mount staying and eventually signing that new contract? Do you see him leaving? And what would you think about him leaving, especially not just leaving, but leaving to, at least reportedly, to one of our biggest rivals, whether it ends up being Liverpool or apparently one of the other few that are interested in Man United or Man City or whoever else? What do you think?
I reckon he'll probably end up staying. I can't see us declining what he wants as a weekly wage. I don't really know. It's quite difficult. I think the club have come out and said that they don't want to repeat the same situation as Christensen and Rudiger. So, I mean, apart from all the reports, everything kind of points to him staying, which is really weird, but yeah.
Does it? What makes you think that, or what do you think points to him staying?
The fact that the club don't want to repeat the whole Christensen situation. That could mean that we will sell him.
They won't let him go for free. So if he doesn't sign the contract, they will sell him this summer rather than let the contract run out. Because obviously he has another year on his contract after this one. That's why if he doesn't sign a new one, they will sell him this summer.
I mean, we could sell him, but like, given that it's 50 million, I don't think Todd Boehly would want us to lose Mount for 50 million, seeing how Enzo, Bellingham and Co are over 100 mil, even with 1 year left on his contract. I think he's definitely worth a lot more than that.
It's a tough one. I do agree with you that I think he will end up staying. Just because, I will get into more detail of that in a second. Just lastly, before I let Pice give his piece or his opinion on this as well. I mean, do you want him to stay? Because obviously there's a lot of people that have criticized him, say he's not been anywhere near good enough. The wages he's demanding are crazy considering how poor his performances have been. There's also obviously the point to make that, especially if Joao Felix signs permanently, where will Mount play? Considering we also get Nkunku, who, well, doesn't necessarily, they aren't the same players as Mason Mount, obviously, but within certain systems, they will take up the same roles, the same positions, even if they are different types of players. So like in a 3-4-3, Mount wouldn't get back in the team. But even in a 4-2-3-1, if Felix is the 10, or even if then Nkunku is the 10, well, where will Mount play? And will we realistically play a 4-3-3 to actually give Mount his best position as an attacking 8, as much as he hasn't been good as an attacking 8 at all this season whenever he's played it? But will we really play without a 10 if we have Felix, if we have Nkunku, if we have, who knows if Havertz leaves? But we still apparently want a striker. So that will also question, okay, if Havertz doesn't leave, where will he play if we sign the striker? So with that said, do you want him to stay? And what is your, I guess, thoughts on just, well, he just won't play. And then it kind of makes sense that he won't sign a new contract, because why would he sign a new contract if he won't play?
I do want him to stay, but I mean, with Potter, we know that he can transform players into, he can change players' positions. So I don't know. You never know. Mount might end up playing at right back at some point. So, it's just a difficult situation. Honestly, I don't have the answers.
No, it's absolutely fair. Pice, let me bring you into it. Obviously, in case, well, not in case, but is there anything that I've missed? Let me just bring on this other one. This is also what Jacob Steinberg said. Mount wants the Chelsea hierarchy to show they value him. They offered Reece James a contract worth up to £250,000 a week. Chelsea have not given up hope of landing Jude Bellingham. Can we stop talking about Bellingham? Number one, we're not getting him. Number two, he's a twat, so leave him alone. Send him to Liverpool and hopefully we batter him twice every season. And that's what I've done since Tuesday, so fuck him.
Bro, I saw that video. You know what? He was annoying me during the game, but when I got home and saw this video of him pushing Cucurella for no reason at the end.
After the game as well.
I was like, what the fuck? What did he even do
acting like a 12-year-old clown. Like, what is this? And how you guys might not have seen this as much but obviously because I live in Austria, we get a lot of German media. Germany lost their shit about Dortmund going out to this double penalty situation. No, but first they think it's never a penalty, which I think is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. How can it not be a penalty? What more than widening your body do you want than what that guy did? I don't give a shit whether he did it on purpose. That's not the handball rule, on purpose. We got rid of on purpose 10 years ago. And what people also seem to not understand, which I also didn't mention on Tuesday in the post-match stream, it's not just the box that the players aren't allowed to run into. They're also not allowed to run into the D, like at the end of the box. And the Dortmund player that cleared the ball after Havertz hit the post was in that D when Havertz hit the ball. So, like, as much as you can maybe complain about they don't always get retaken and everything, that's fine. That's a fair enough complaint. Maybe they don't always get retaken. But you can, like, the rules are the rules. Like, the referee can't do nothing about the rules. You can call the referee arrogant or whatever. If your players are too stupid to understand to not run into the box or the D too early, well, then that's your own problem. But enough about Jude Bellingham and Dortmund. Pice, I know you're not, well, I'm not going to say you're not the biggest fan of Mount, but you've been very critical of Mount this season and also to some extent partly last season. And you've not really hidden the fact that you don't really care if he leaves. Number one, what reasons do you give for that? Because my counterpoint would be, well, we've seen him be very good. Not 1,000,000% consistent all the time. I think we're all about that. But we've seen him be very good. Just because he's been bad for a while now doesn't mean he's just bad full stop now. And that's why I'm like, to me, he has a great touch. He can pass. He can shoot. He's quick enough, gets stuck in. Like, there is a lot of good attributes to him. The question is just, will we get enough out of that it's worth him being here? You think no, but do you also find the reports a little bit weird how it goes from like the one thing to the next thing to the next thing? It's always a new reason, always a new number, always a new thing that's apparently the big issue, but it's never the same one. It always changes, which makes me personally think, well, are even any of them true? Because they can't all be true.
It's I think it's a very interesting situation because, like, we know, well, there's supposedly the contract talks are on hold, but there's still a lot of reports coming out every week. There's like different reports, so
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's just to kind of, I don't know, kind of like shut the public down, but it's not really working because journalists are going to get hold of information if it's still developing behind the scenes anyway. So, one thing that I didn't add onto my tweets that I found quite interesting was that Jacob said that if it goes into the summer, it's expected that we'll listen to offers. Whereas what David Ornstein said was that, we'll renegotiate again in the summer. And I personally think if it goes into the summer, I think we'll just sell him. But I think if he's like, if there's something like I personally, and you may think, oh, it's crazy to disagree with what, what the sources are saying, but I personally think that it's still being negotiated like behind the scenes right now. Hence why Graham Potter was like, I don't want to get involved. It's complicated. And then if it goes to the summer, I feel like, well, yeah, we'll just sell him. Because like, I don't think Chelsea think about it. We've got so much to do this summer. Like, we're not going to sit around and just negotiate with Mount. I don't think during the summer. So I think if it goes to the summer and he doesn't sign, I think we'll sell him. But do I want him to stay? I mean, yeah, I'd want him to stay. I just don't want him to be a starter. And I don't think he will anyway. And to your point of like you saying, we've seen him be very good. For me, I've like never really rated Mount that highly. Like, I think Mount at his best is still like, I'd still rather play Joao Felix or someone like that. Like, I believe we can just sign better players than Mount, hence why I don't really mind us selling him. Would it suck if he goes to Liverpool or United and do really well? Yeah, of course it would. But if Chelsea get their recruitment right in those attacking positions, it won't really matter. It only really matters if we don't get the recruitment right, in my opinion. And I don't know. I just don't. It seems weird, but I just don't have the same like sentiment to him as I do with like a Reece James or even a Hudson-Odoi. Like, I don't know. I just prefer those guys. Like, I don't really know. It's strange, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one because if you ask me, obviously, who has more talent, Joao Felix or Mason Mount? That is not a debate to be had. Joao Felix is clearly more talented. And I'm not even trying to have this as a comparison with Joao Felix. What Mount, I think, is capable of, even though he hasn't shown it yet, what I think is capable of is, it's not you don't need, and I would argue you don't even want every single one of your players to just be superstars in terms of the best technically and stuff talented. I'm not, and by that I'm not trying to say Mount isn't very technically talented. In the grand scheme of things of football, he's still in the top 1% probably in terms of how technically gifted he is. But and I know he hasn't done it yet, and maybe this is just purely naive. Maybe I have this attachment to him because of him being from the academy. Again, just want to reiterate to people, I am not English, so you can't say I just like him because he's English. So when England play at like international level, I don't even want England to do well because I know so many English people, and all of my Twitter is full of English people. If anything, I find it a bit annoying when they do well. So like, England is not the thing here. Why I like do or do not like Mason Mount, but I feel like Mount can be like a consistent player that is an important part of a functioning team. The problem is, at 10, I want to be a bit more outlandish, a bit more creative, a bit more technically special. But you don't have a 10 if you're playing Mount as an attacking 8 because they don't both exist. There's no formation that has both. So it's like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I don't want him to leave. I don't think we should be selling him. I think, and what I personally think, I think the most likely scenario, I don't know. I just sit here, I'm like, the way I think to know Mason Mount, and that's purely from seeing what he does on the pitch, seeing interviews, and I know interviews aren't the real human. I'm very aware. But of what I know, he just, it feels unlikely to me. It feels unlike him to me that he's like, that it's so badly about the money. Like, obviously, he will have certain demands, and if Chelsea are too far off that, he won't agree to it. But I don't see him as, okay, I'll say as a random number. Say I want 250k, and if you're even offering me 245, I'm not taking it. And it just doesn't feel like that. So what I personally find much more likely to be the reason for anything is the contract length. I find that at his age, how old is he? 24. A much more understandable thing that he maybe doesn't want to sign a 7-8 year contract, because then he's like, well, that contract puts me until 32 or 33. When that happens, I can't even get another big contract after that, because obviously how do players think? Even stays at Chelsea for the next 7-8 years, everything's fine. At 32, 33, he might leave, or earlier, obviously. And then he still wants himself a big contract. Now, the further into his 30s he is, the less likely he's going to be to get a new contract. Similar situation to Antonio Rudiger. The reason Antonio Rudiger was part of the issue wasn't just the money, was contract length. Because they know, well, they want their last big contract, and that happens in the early 30s. It's the same what's happening with Kante right now in terms of that last big contract. So I just find it very understandable if he wouldn't want to sign a 7-8 year contract. And that's why I still think he will stay, because I think eventually we will just offer him a 5-year contract, and then he will agree to that. Now, that doesn't mean he will start a lot or whatever, but that's what I think will happen. Did you see where that logic is coming from, or do you just see him completely differently, Pice, in terms of you think that, the money is that important to him and stuff like that? Or because the whole valuation thing is like, I'm sure he has a little bit of pride in him, and I'm sure he wants to be valued. But I think we all have seen enough of him as a person, whether that's on the pitch or in interviews, to know that he's not enough of an idiot to not understand that, well, he can't expect to be valued like Reece James when he's not playing even remotely close to as well as Reece James. I just, maybe he's talked into it. Maybe he's actually that egotistical and stupid. But I just don't see him as that kind of stupid person. And you'd have to be stupid if you're being Mason, if you are Mason Mount, to think I need to get the same as Reece James, because you don't deserve that right now. So, yeah, maybe it's me giving him too much of a benefit of the doubt. But yeah, go on, sorry.
I've got two different views on this. With the money, I don't necessarily think it's like you say, if he wants 250, if they offer him 220, he's going to reject. I don't think it's like that. I think what I have read though, in all of these reports, they say they always go back Mount is a 2 times player of the year. I feel like his argument is, look, I've had a bad season this season, but the whole team's had a bad season. You can't hold that against me. I deserve to be amongst the top end earners because I'm a 2 times player of the year. Look how much I've done for the club so far in the short time that I've been here, type thing. I can see him arguing that. Do I agree with it? That's, everyone's going to have different opinions on that logic or not. But I could see that being the logic based on what I've read. And also, I just think he wants to be a starter. I think he's got so used to starting every game now that because he's now no longer starting a game, it's kind of hit him a little bit.
But no report. I mean, obviously you said earlier, in terms of you think that it might be being negotiated right now as well. But no report has said that the problem is that he hasn't been guaranteed to be a starter. So that's why I'm like.
Do you think he'd sit on the bench though? Do you think he'd accept starting once every 3 games?
Yes and no to because that's nothing to do with the contract, I think.
No, but once you sign that contract, though, especially if Graham Potter's going to be here another 3 years or 2 years, you got to think from him with that perspective. How much football will he really get with all?
Absolutely, but then wouldn't he just say straight up no to a contract rather than there being because that fear is there regardless of what money is offered, regardless of what amount of years is offered. That problem is a problem regardless of anything, unless he's somehow guaranteed minutes in his contract, which will never happen. So that's why I'm like, I see why you're saying that, but then he would just say no full stop, wouldn't he?
Maybe he is holding out for a set amount then. If
I just think it's the years. Do you not see that as a logical situation, the whole years thing?
Oh yeah, no. If I wouldn't accept an 8-year contract, I think that's kind of stupid. But I appreciate when players do that, but. I don't think. I mean, I know I've had a lot of people reply to me "Oh, Mount is proper Chelsea. Didn't he want to retire here and all that? What's the problem with 8 years?" But Reece James is going to move on eventually. People don't realize this. I do think you know, how many one club Chelsea men have there been? Very, very little. I mean, even Frank Lampard moved on, for Christ's sake. Like, you know what I mean?
If he moves on by the age of Frank Lampard, I won't mind so much.
But like, no, I did expect Reece and Mount to stay here a long, long time. And because like it has shocked me a little bit that, you know, I mean, 8 years, fair enough. But like, what's the lowest Chelsea are willing to go? Like, what's the lowest he wants to go or the highest, I should say, because I think that tells a lot. Like, if he wants a 5-year contract, like that was kind of the norm. But now, because, you know, it's not the norm for us. And because, especially with the academy guys, you know, you'd expect them to stay longer, like they'd want to stay pretty much forever. So I think that's kind of caught a few Chelsea fans out, where it's like, well, why is he taking so long to sign a contract when this is his club type thing? And that's what's leading to all this hate, because they also saw how quickly Reece James signed the contract, you know. So
but we don't know that though, do we?
Like,
quickly in comparison to Mount, absolutely. But they, you know, Bowley might have started negotiating with Reece James in June, and he signed it in August, September. So like, you know, not like from one day to another. Obviously, we don't know when they start negotiating. But I'll take it back to Amit in a second. I think what people sometimes need to a little bit remember, if John Terry or Frank Lampard were feeling like they were going to be benched and be on the bench most games in a moment where it came to contract negotiations, they wouldn't have signed a new contract either. Arguably they would have been less likely to do so than Mason Mount would have done in that age group. Like, we're not talking John Terry when he was 32. We're not talking Frank Lampard when he was 30. But at 24, if they were doubting whether they would get as much game time as they would like, regardless of whether they think they deserve it or not, like, you know, legends only become legends by playing well and staying. You don't just stay if you're shit. That doesn't happen. Joe, look at Jody Morris. He's as Chelsea through and through as you can be, but because he weren't quite good enough, he only played for us for a few years and then moved on and played for a few other clubs. That doesn't mean he's not Chelsea through and through, though. Like, those two things are not exclusive, in my opinion. One last thing I wanted to in terms of the negotiating thing, what you said, did you feel like maybe we are negotiating? My only reason why I maybe doubt that is just because of everything that's happened at the moment, right? Like, where in terms of even Potter has come, maybe not quite close to the sack. Who knows how close it was, but suddenly there was so much talk about, and there was so much pressure, so much question marks behind it, that it suddenly became a thing that the owners had to talk about and you know, think about. And with our form being that bad, I feel like there's too much going on within the club right now to be negotiating contract in, like, well, now it's March, but for most of what I'm talking about, February. I don't know. I see what you're saying, and you could be right. I just feel like it's also understandable if there isn't, because the form was so bad. We had other worries right now. So that's why I wouldn't find it too shocking if contract negotiations were stopped at the moment. And then maybe, you know, they take them back up in like April, May, because that's what the next confusing thing when they always talk about, in the summer. I'm like, yeah, but what do you mean by the summer? Because the summer in football terms starts in the middle of May, because that's when the Premier League season ends, no? Or is it this season at the end of May because of the World Cup? So still in May. So May is no summer. Do you know what I mean? Like, and in May you can't sign anyone anyway. You can't even sign anyone in June, not officially. So, like, you know, there is time in that sense. But I mean, to take it back to you, you've shared your thoughts earlier in terms of after everything that Pice has said, that also I have said, even though I've said similar things to yourself, I suppose. What is your, if so, counterpoints to the things that Pice says, for example, or just your thoughts on what maybe the other point of that argument thinks?
I think someone in the chat has made the point that Terry and Lampard would sign the contract despite having competition in their positions. And Clutch came in saying that we don't have those type of players with that mentality anymore. And I think that's a really good point. Mount should be confident in himself to not see competition as a threat to himself. But his performances this season probably says the opposite, really. He's just not looking up to it.
It's interesting because the performances say that, I guess, but that is always my counterpoint to when Clutch says that about Mount. I'm like, I think that Mount believes that he will start. So that's why I don't think for Mount the issue is that he is questioning whether he will get starts, because I think he will back himself to force himself into the team. Now, you might think that's ridiculous, but I don't think you make it as far as Mason Mount did, winning a Champions League, being one of our best players in that Champions League run. I don't think you make it to that point in your footballing career without having that kind of mindset, because he could have had that mindset when we signed Kai Havertz and Hakim Ziyech and whoever else we signed in that summer. He could have had that mindset, but he didn't have that mindset. Now, obviously, at the time, we weren't talking contract, so there was no contract negotiations going on. But I'm sorry, Yash, but I think, what is this crap you're talking about? Now, I understand where you're trying to come from, because JT is one of the best centre-backs ever, so that wouldn't have really happened to JT, that there was someone better than him here, and then would he have left? So that's fair enough from that perspective. But I'm purely talking about the mentality and the mindset. If there was 2 centre-backs at Chelsea, maybe even 3 centre-backs at Chelsea that were realistically, and I very, very much assume that Ma here is not the real Ma, so sorry, mate. But if there was 3 centre-backs at Chelsea that were, objectively speaking, better than John Terry, and then it came to a contract extension situation for John Terry, then I don't think he would. I don't think he would have just extended a new contract. But because he's one of the best in the world, obviously he didn't have that issue. With Lampard, maybe not quite as close to the best in his position ever as John Terry is, but still in his era in the Premier League, one of the best in midfield without a doubt. So understand what you're trying to say, but just think about the mindset itself. If there were better players than them in those positions, would they have signed your contract? And then I don't think so. And you say Trevor and Reece signed deals. Why not Mount? Well, Trevor won't get a starting spot at another team. Mount would go to Liverpool and start, but just because they play a system that is perfectly suited to the style of player he is, unless they get rid of Klopp, but I doubt that. So, and Reece, well, Reece is basically our best player. So why would he not? That's a completely different situation. You know what I mean? You can't just say, oh, well, why did they and he didn't? Well, because they're in different situations, all of them. So, yeah, that I don't know. I don't know what others think about this, but that is my thoughts. I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, we'll just have to wait and see when he does sign a contract. I think eventually he will, although I have my doubts. It's not like I'm 100% set on this. You appreciate my mental gymnastics for Mason Mount, but his head is already in Liverpool. Klopp already spoken to him. Well, I doubt that. Not that Klopp has spoken to him. He might well have done that, but I don't think Mount's head is already in Liverpool. It might be, but I don't think so. But hey, we're all allowed to have opinions, and until the summer when we know for sure, is he leaving, is he staying? It's all just opinions. None of us know for sure. And I've talked about this. Another thing that Jacob Steinberg spoke about is that we will keep spending, and that we've looked at Victor Osimhen as Graham Potter wants a striker to add to Nkunku. Just to clarify, Mr. Steinberg, Nkunku is not a striker. And apparently Chelsea don't see him as a striker either. But hey, sure, we'll get to that when we get to that. Also, will Liverpool be able to afford the kind of wages that he apparently wants from us, Mount? In terms of head being in Liverpool and that. But yeah, I mean, I'll start with you. First of all, do you think we need to sign a proper striker in the summer? Second of all, do you think that should be another Serie A striker? And third of all, if it is another Serie A striker, do you think it should be Victor Osimhen? Again, I'm not expecting you to be an expert on him and watch Napoli week in, week out. But in terms of what you know about it, is that something that attracts you, that interests you as a signing, or not so much purely because of what we've experienced with Lukaku?
I actually watch Napoli week in, week out. No, I don't. But
I was just going to.
Yeah, I don't really want another striker from Italy. But I can see the qualities that Osimhen has. He's good in there. He's quick. He's powerful. And he is a lot skinnier than Lukaku. Let's get that right. But I don't know. I just got PTSD.
And understandably so, mate. One thing's for sure, Osimhen is about 1 trillion times better in the air than Lukaku is. But everything else is... I just don't see how Osimhen suits us, because I think what makes Osimhen good is having space, and space to run into, space to attack, space to be aggressive in when pressing and stuff. But we don't have that. How many Premier League games do you see? And I don't think this is a managerial issue where, if we had a manager that could create situations like that, then it would be possible. I just don't see how a striker of the style of Osimhen is particularly suited to us. I just don't see it. Pice, what are your thoughts on this? Like, I really like him as a player. I just don't think, and it is apparently his dream to play in the Premier League, but I just don't feel like it will work for us, because I don't feel like Potter is going to turn us into a counter-attacking team. I don't even think it would work being a counter-attacking team longer term, because, well, who are we going to counter-attack? Maybe the top 7 in the league, but everybody else will park the bus so hard that there's nothing to counter-attack in. So, but also what Amit said, that is purely a PTSD situation. But what do you think about it, Pice?
Oh, good old strikers, eh? Good old traditional strikers in Chelsea Football Club. I don't know, to be honest. Every time, I mean, I couldn't have been more hyped for Lukaku's return. I had absolute guarantee that he was going to score a lot of goals, considering what he'd done here and just, his whole story and just the revenge and all that, how he hated the English media and he was going to use Chelsea to get the revenge.
Less than fucking Morata, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, I genuinely... Well, it's bullshit that I won't get myself excited again. I will, but I will have it in the back of my mind that they could absolutely flop. Osimhen, he's been unbelievable this season for Napoli. He was very, very good at Lille as well. I remember he scored against us in the Champions League, a header from a corner. We wanted to sign him back then, and he said after the game, like when he came to Stamford Bridge, like, what of an honour it was, and how his idol has always been Drogba. There's a picture of him in a Chelsea shirt floating around when he's a kid. It kind of seems like another Lukaku situation, but maybe we have to do it and see if this one works. What I can say though is that I do believe Bowley will go for him. I think he'll go for him really hard. I do. I just think all the news now is the priority is a striker amongst other things, and I think that'll be our big money signing. I feel like Bowley will want to get it right. Like, he'll want to be the one that, he wants to be the guy who goes, hey, look, I bought the big successful striker at Chelsea. So, I think he wants, I think the ownership want that associated with them. I think they want to right some wrongs. And whether that's Osimhen, whether that's even Kane, I don't know. I don't think Levy will negotiate with us. But in terms of how he suits us, I watched Napoli against Lazio and
that was the worst game to pick to see how good anyone.
Yeah, but I watched him and I was like, Napoli had a bit of the ball, and I was thinking, it's kind of how like we had Lukaku, where we just Napoli try to get the ball in the box to him, and he's not the best on the ball, but he's a really good finisher. And it's like, is that just going to be the same here, or will it be different now that we've got better attackers like a Felix, who's a bit more creative? Like, will it be different? I'm not sure, but if I had a personal choice, if he doesn't get banned, I think Tony is the best bet for us, because I think his link-up play and adaptability to systems is just brilliant. And I think his finishing is really good as well.
Yeah, no, his finishing is wonderful. Genuinely is. What can I say? If someone said it's Kane or Tony, in their opinion, Kane will never happen. But yeah, if someone asked me who is the number one striker I would want us to sign, it would be Harry Kane. I would agree. Tony, part of me thinks, it would click and work wonderfully well. Part of me thinks, well, he's played in a somewhat counter-attacking, punt the ball to the striker team at Brentford. Against Brentford, mind you, again, where no one is going to be as defensive as they are against Chelsea. So I'm not even sure if that one will work. And sorry, Gringo, do you even watch games? Maybe park the bus is a strong term to use, but do you not see that we struggle to break down low blocks almost every single Premier League game we play? Don't understand, but sure. And also, now, there's plenty of people calling Mount the Snake, if anything. But also, again, why are you just mixing things that have different reasons? why people were so mad at Christensen is because the journalists told us that Christensen had an agreement with Chelsea for a new contract and then went back on it because he changed management. Obviously, that's going to lead to a different reaction from the fans when you say, oh, there was an agreement, but now you changed your mind, compared to that not being the case. So like, sorry, Yash, but come on, what are you doing? You just hating on Mount, or what would you try? What are you trying to have? But yeah, also the next thing, I mean, Yash with a your reasonable comment. Would they even want to sell him? We've learned in the past. Sure, now we don't have Marine anymore, but we've learned in the past it's not flipping easy to get players out of Napoli. And as much as we have different ownership, De Laurentiis might still not like negotiating, might still not just like Chelsea. So who knows if he'd even be willing to sell to us. But then is the question, which striker could we get? I mean, Ivan Toney pled guilty for pretty much all of his charges. We don't know how long he's going to be suspended for. It's going to be a while, I think. So he's kind of not an option. Harry Kane will never happen. So then what do you do? Because, I mean, you said you have PTSD. You're not really into the whole Serie A striker situation. I'm not asking you to, like, come up with the solution to everything. But who would you pick? Because, I mean, Fire Reds ask who would be my top three. I don't know. Like, in terms of realistic ones, I genuinely don't know. And that's my problem. I know I'm supposed to sit here and, give you insights into football. But I just don't know. And I to me, anyone that claims to know, it's just lying to themselves. I mean, Gonzalo Ramos is a thing, but okay, played one good game at the Euros. When he came in for Ronaldo, scored a hat-trick, and then didn't do anything else in the next few games. And then played a good Champions League game against Bruges. Let's not forget, it's Bruges, right? So, I don't know. Also, like, we already had our thing with Benfica. Let's not try again. But, I mean, like, if PTSD for Serie A is too big, then what?
I think Ramos is actually a good shout. 15 goals in 19 league games this season.
Will we get another player from Benfica? I know he has a release clause, but, you know how much effort that was last time round.
I think we could, yeah. Especially if we get them in the Champions League. And then, I don't know, maybe Todd Bowley has a chance to speak with some of their guys over there. We could kind of ease the situation. But I'm still thinking that we need more of a Giroud type of player, just a target man to, like, I don't know, just...
No, but they don't barely even exist anymore. Giroud,
I know. It's difficult. It's just an awful summer for buying a striker, in my opinion. There's just nobody available that fits the profile that we actually need.
And then you get the rumours of Tammy Abraham.
Yeah, and
anyone but Tammy, please.
We haven't even touched on the fact that I know Inter are now talking about they may want Lukaku on another loan, but I wouldn't be too sure of that yet. Do you know what I mean? Like, we might also be stuck with Lukaku. And are we serious?
We'll just have to send him to Saudi or something. That guy ain't coming back here.
But he will not go to Saudi, though. That's my issue. Like, we might want to try that, but he won't want to.
Force him. I don't care.
Well, how can you force him, though? He has a contract. So, like,
Money.
He can force us to make him stay as well. Like, it's just, again, I don't think we will end up with Lukaku next season, but there's a chance.
I think the only other realistic one would be Havertz, because Juventus need money.
Yeah,
I think that'd probably be. I think it will be him, Osimhen, or.
But I personally rather Osimhen than Vlahovic, but I'm not sure about either. That's my.
Yeah, I mean, it's likely we do get someone from Serie A again. I think Vlahovic would be pretty easy as well, because Juve just need money, full stop. So I mean, I could see them selling. They sold De Ligt, so Yeah.
Exactly. There's just, I mean, I'm not sure if that's a term in English as well, but in Italian and then translated to German, Juve's nickname is basically like old lady. And that's basically what their squad is. How the fuck's Di Maria their best player every week? Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing?
Bro, he's been insane lately. I don't understand.
Yeah, because he's just a ridiculously good footballer. But he's just old as shit, man, at this point. Come on. But yeah, I mean, Gonzalo Ramos, it's something to look into. I haven't seen much of him outside of Champions League highlights and what he did at the World Cup, I'll be honest. So I need to look into that more before having a full-on finalized opinion on that. But I mean, Pice, do you have anyone in mind if we don't really want the Serie A one?
I mean, there's a couple of low-key shouts. I think the guy from Porto is a really good striker. I forgot his
Iranian,
name.
Iranian.
Yeah, he's a good striker.
Mm.
But these are more like low-key shouts.
Yeah,
Probably
Boney won't
him.
sign him. Boney won't sign anyone older than
No,
21.
that's the thing as well. Like, it's a hard one to speak on right now because we've not really had any like, we know apparently we want a striker, but what type of striker does Graham Potter want? That's why I
Yeah.
think Tony's so good because like, I know he might get banned, but if he's available in the summer or even in January, like, because I saw something where Brentford apparently might agree to sell him in January 2024 instead of the summer. I think he ticks so many boxes because like he's reasonably quick, but he's link up playing like he's just the complete package for me. So I don't really know anyone else. I mean, I know we got linked to that Jonathan David, but I'm not really a massive fan.
No.
I wouldn't want Lautaro Martinez. I think he misses too many chances.
I don't want to sign any more Inter players.
Yeah, there's not, you guys are right. There's not really that many options, to be honest with you. And I don't see us like not. The thing is, as well, is I don't see us not spending big on someone. Like, I feel like we'll get two big signings, and that'll be a midfielder and a striker. And I feel like they'll both be very expensive. So
that's another thing. I still think we should sign Rice in midfield, personally. And there's no chance we get Rice if we get rid of Mount. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why like the Bellingham links and Caicedo's come back up.
That's just all not defensive enough. I don't understand.
No,
Do they all think Enzo should be the deeper six? Because it feels like that's what they're thinking at Chelsea, and I just don't understand it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But in terms of strikers, there's not, there's probably 5 or 6. But the problem is as well is that why Bowley might have to be quite quick, which I can suggest. Well, he has been very quick in the past. Is that other clubs are going to want strikers. Man U want a striker. There'll be other clubs. Apparently, Arsenal want someone. So you don't really know. Like, it's going to be difficult to get these players. And there's only a small pool, which means the price is then going to go up because these selling clubs know that the big clubs, some big clubs do need a striker. So Sesko would be interesting, but again, like that's kind of like a project for me. It's kind of like a, I don't know how Broly is going to come back, whether he even gets another chance at Chelsea, but. Sesko is very young. He's
Sesko
not
to me is like a Madueke, where I'm like, well, there is something there, but
I think Chelsea want someone to lead the line. That's what the reports are suggesting. Because otherwise, they would just say they want a backup striker or something like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
no, exactly, it's true. It's true. I mean, Julian Alvarez is someone that I think we should look at because you can clearly see City aren't too hesitant to let players go when they want to go. I don't think Julian Alvarez will want to play second fiddle to Haaland for too much longer. So I think we should at least consider it, depending on price and everything else. But obviously, he's small and he's not going to be leading the line in terms of traditionally. But maybe that's what it needs. I mean, City won God knows how much with Aguero, and Aguero and Alvarez are basically the same, size and body type and almost the same everything. Do you know what I mean? At least Alvarez reminds me of Aguero a lot. I'm not trying to say he's as good, but in terms of, that style type of striker. But I don't know. Enough about this one. Just one last quick piece of news because I found that quite, funny is maybe the wrong word, but interesting. According to the Telegraph, we inquired about Bruno Guimaraes in January, obviously the Newcastle midfield, and are likely to be back in the summer. However, the chances of him leaving this year are virtually nil. Now, I agree, the chances of him leaving are virtually nil. But I like him as a player. I will say that. Do you like him as a player, Amit, at all?
Yeah, definitely. He's got everything you want from a midfielder. I think, he can definitely slot straight in next to Enzo or, mix it up with a variety of combinations there.
Absolutely. Price. I mean, if I'm honest, I'm not 1,000,000% sure of how defensive or not he is. Whenever I see things of him, it's him running with the ball or playing passes rather than anything particularly defensive. And that's still what I think we need. But I mean, it's a little bit like, we inquired, but it's like, it's like it's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah, no, I think they said he's signing a contract which will give him 1 more year on what he already has, and the price would be 100 million plus anyway. So again, it's another one. The midfielders, there's not really that many top midfielders, and a lot of clubs are going to want midfielders. So I'm really interested to see where this summer goes because there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to make more big signings, but
Still
who
can't
they'll
believe
be.
he just signed fucking Germany.
Yeah, I mean,
All those problems
but,
would have already been fixed, man.
you know, like what I've learned about all of these like links we have, it's just players that we used to want that we didn't get, and now they're like 100 million. And
Yeah.
it's just like, can we like this is my hope for the new ownership is like they signed that Kendry Paez guy, and then when he's 20, like Real Madrid won him for like 200 million. Like that's my hope. Like because we want to be the club that gets these guys, so we don't have to fucking go out and spend 80, 90 million on them. Like, yeah, that's my hope anyway for some of these signings that are, the fan base are not so excited about. Like the Andre Santos guy, like we beat Newcastle, Man City, like his age is doing, really, really well. And I think, if he can come back in, next season or the season after, like the future is definitely not spending 100 million, hopefully, on every single position.
Yeah, no. I mean, Eugen, whichever language your name is pronounced in. I mean, I personally disagree that Enzo's an excellent defensive midfielder. I don't know how I want to word that, but not the style of defensive midfield that I think we need, my opinion. Kante will play alongside, sure, if he's fit, but also, well, we at least reportedly want a midfielder. So clearly it isn't so set in stone in Chelsea's minds that will be the two in midfield. Otherwise, we wouldn't be considering signing big midfielders. Is Kone any good? Honestly, bro, what I know of him, not bad. But do I know enough to have a full judgment on this? No. So I'd rather than sitting here and claiming all of these things that I know. If we get linked to him, I'll take a look. But until we get serious links.
Hey, I mean, he said a week ago he'd love to join Chelsea because they're his idol club. So maybe we do go and get that. Vivel, do something. Yeah. 20 million, I think, as well, because he's not signing a contract. So maybe.
I mean, that would be good. But would we get him to be the starting striker? Unless the only way in which I could see a signing like that, or like a Sesko, is if we decide, okay, Havertz stays for a little while longer, and we see how these ones develop, and then that's how.
No, Kone's the midfielder, bro.
Oh no, yeah, no, I know. But in terms of just in general players, but yeah, Kone is the midfielder. That is very true. But isn't there a Kone striker as well? I swear there is. Maybe I've mixed things up now. Might well be the case. I'm very sure there's a Kone striker. Maybe it's Kone. I'm mixing things up. But yeah, no, Kone the midfielder is true. But same answer to what I said a second ago applies. So, I'll leave it at that for the time being. Let's actually get to talking about Leicester versus Chelsea. So far, I've put this up as a 3-4-3. But the question is, will we even be playing a 3-4-3? Again, just to quickly run you through the team news. There are a few players missing. Raheem Sterling is a doubt because he feels some tightness in his hamstring. I think, honestly, at the moment, Potter is just scaring the living shit out of everyone by constantly saying how everyone has tightness in his hamstring. I feel like this is a much more common thing. Just usually managers don't inform the public about this when it's just not more than tightness. But he seemingly wants, and the club in general, wants to be really careful with all injuries now because we can't be bothered anymore with constantly everyone being injured. So that's why I think for a few months we're going to be very careful with everyone, and then we'll go from there. But so Sterling is going to be out. Aubameyang has some sort of back issue, not that he would have played, but he's out. Not Raheem Sterling. Reece James missed training, but thankfully, at least according to Potter, it wasn't thanks to that outrageously disgusting tackle by Jude Bellingham. It's apparently due to illness. Not quite sure how that's happened, but sure. Realistically, would he have played this weekend? I feel like with how we're managing his minutes at the moment, no. I'm so excited to have Malo Gusto because I love Reece James more than anything. But if the guy can only play one game a week and we play 2 games every week, well, then I'm so excited to have Malo Gusto, bloody hell. And it still kind of annoys me a little bit that we didn't somehow find a way to get him already. But hey, it is what it is.
He was at the game as well, if anyone didn't know. He was at the game with...
I didn't know.
Yeah, I saw a picture of him. He was chilling with Fofana, David Fofana, obviously.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That is interesting.
He had his hood up. I saw a picture of him.
That is interesting. Kolomani is an interesting one.
Bro, I saw apparently Frankfurt want 100 mil though. Like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like any upcoming
that's half our fault, isn't it? That we're paying 100 mil for everyone, so now everyone's going to want 100 mil for everyone.
It's just insane, bro. It's just mental.
Yeah. And I also feel like Bayern will get a striker, and you know how they love to get the best strikers in the Bundesliga. So it's like Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's going to end up at Bayern, but I could obviously be wrong because Bayern also can't afford 100 mil. So we'll see about that one. But yeah, haven't forgotten anyone. Mason Mount is still laboring a little bit of injury. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe makes the bench, but he's definitely not starting. And otherwise, obviously, Thiago Silva is out, but I think, and Kante isn't fit yet, like we touched on earlier already, might be used against Everton next week, but we don't know yet. So, Ahmed, I'll start with you. We won 2 in 17, even though some of those 17 included a back three. But 2 in 17 until we played against Leeds, wherefore, especially the latter part of that run, we always played a back four. And we all of a sudden switched to a back three against Leeds. We won. Then we stayed with that back three against Dortmund and played really well. But now we don't have Reece James. And also, well, Sterling isn't playing. So who else is playing? Will he use Mudryk in this formation? As Clutch loves to remind us about, he's not an inside forward at all. Again, my question is, how do you know? You've never seen it. But do you feel like we, number one, will, and number two, should stick to the back three?
Yeah, I think we should definitely stick with the back three. We've got a plethora of centre-backs still available despite Silva being injured. Even with Reece out, I mean, Reece them play against Leeds, right? So, yeah. I mean, I don't think that's too much of an issue. We can just put Loftus-Cheek there. Or if we're looking to switch things out, we can always play Pulisic or Ziyech at right wing back. Obviously, don't want to. Yeah, I think 3 at the back is definitely the way to win the game.
There you go. Yeah, I'm very intrigued what Pice is going to say, but I probably agree. Again, people have heard me for months going about how I want to go away from the back three and to the back four. But I mean, I've also seen months of Potter trying to make it work and it didn't happen. So what do I want for the rest of the season? Do I want us to play a back four every time we play in the league? It not working. And then as soon as we get round to the next Champions League fixture, we switch to the back three and do that because that's what the team is more comfortable in. So I'm like, if that's what you have to do at the moment, that's what you have to do because Potter, because what I think, formations play a big part in football, but I still think that a style of play of a manager can be the same general style in a back three and a back four. So if the back three works better and Potter is able to implement his style of play and how he wants his players to move, how he wants them to pass, how he wants them to attack, even if it's a different formation, but teach them the kind of what he wants in as a more general thing, which seems like they haven't really been able to take to so far in terms of the back four, at least. Maybe you need to do it in a back three, and then once everyone understood, that's what we need to be doing, then you switch to the back four and then see if it works. Because I want the back four. I think the back four has a higher ceiling than the back three in general. I do think that the back four has a lower bottom than the back three as well. I will say that. But can I really be bothered to go back to just being miserable other than when we potentially play a back three in the Champions League? No. So, I mean, if there's not any progress in the back four for the time being, we need to stick to the back three. What else can I flip and do? I mean, is that how you see it, Pice? Or do you think, well, yeah, it was good against Dortmund. We needed to do it against Leeds, but now enough of this silly business and go back to the back four. How do you see it?
I don't mind displaying the back three, to be honest. Mainly because I don't want Aspie playing. I don't even think he can play. So, yeah, I don't really think we've got.
He can play now. Can he not? At least Potter said everyone else is available, but then to be fair, he also didn't mention Mount initially. So.
Leicester, can be quite attacking at home as well. So I'd like us to play the 3 at the back. I think don't change something that's you're doing confident in. I think a lot of the players as well, or some of the players like Kovacic have hinted, we're very used to the back 3. So I feel like if let's continue to build momentum in this. If we have to use it for the rest of the season, who cares? We can use a back 4, focus on that when there's more time. So yeah, just get results. Go on a winning streak, keep the momentum up, and yeah, I think we continue with the 3. Why not? We're doing well in it.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think especially if we deploy it like with the Cucurella's, even though I love Badiashile and I maybe even think Badiashile should play again tomorrow, especially if it's interpreted so aggressively, at least one of those three centre-backs, it's a little bit different to the pragmatic ways in which, in particular, Kante plays it to some extent. Also, Thomas Tuchel at times, not throughout the whole spell, obviously. But let's get into this team then, as we've come to an agreement of a back four. Kepa, of course, will be back in goal. But a couple of things I want to touch on Kepa. Number one, is he now not only the goalkeeper with the highest save percentage in the Premier League, he's now also the goalkeeper with the highest save percentage in this season's Champions League, which is, fair play. And also, in less games, I think as of now, 11 less games, Kepa, if those numbers are correct as I read them, is only one clean sheet of the clean sheet record of Thibaut Courtois at Chelsea away. Isn't that crazy? In less games. Obviously that doesn't mean or say anything in terms of how many goals and how many mistakes happened in the games that no clean sheets were kept in. But the fact that Courtois had the 15-16 season, but still, Courtois had 2 title-winning seasons with Kante and Mourinho, who don't exactly concede a lot of goals. So, the fact that Kepa is one away of the clean sheet record, of course, to me is literally blew my mind when I saw that. I was like, really? That is mental. And it made me think about, did we just overrate Courtois at Chelsea? But I'm like, again, we won the league twice, and he was good in those 2 seasons. As much as we hate him for what happened after, he was good in those 2 seasons. Do we overhate Kepa? I mean, I don't hate him as much as others do, but that's a crazy stat, no, Pice? That is a crazy stat.
Yeah, I'll have to ask a few of my statisticians that I speak to if that's correct. But
no, it is correct.
it is correct.
Looked at it at transfer market and everything. The exact numbers of how many games they might have played, because sometimes they came on as subs, maybe for a penalty shootout or someone got injured. So it's that is the part that's skewed. But in terms of clean sheet numbers, those are correct. Kepa is one off Courtois.
That is pretty mental considering. Well, I was going to say considering our defences, but I mean, no, yeah, we did. Yeah, that is pretty mental, to be fair, thinking about it. Yeah, that's quite crazy.
Yeah.
Might have to tweet that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, check it on transfer market or whatever yourself, just to have your own confirmation rather than just going by my word. But
has he got to keep a clean sheet tomorrow together? Is that what it is?
Yeah. But he has less games, so but yeah, if he gets a clean sheet tomorrow, he has the same amount of clean sheet as Courtois for Chelsea.
All right, I won't tweet it until tomorrow. So we get a clean sheet.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hope so. But I mean, your thoughts? I don't actually know exactly what you think about Kepa, but I'm sure that stat, whether people like me who quite like Kepa, or even people that hate Kepa, I'm sure that stat will have shocked everyone when they saw it or heard it first.
Yeah, he's quite decent, but I always get the feeling that he's going to concede a worldy shot from outside the box at any moment. Literally every time there's a free kick outside the box against Dortmund, I think there were about 4 or 5. Everyone around us were getting worried, and rightly so. He's conceded quite a few worldy shots, and yeah, it's
that's certainly one thing that Courtois wasn't susceptible to. Courtois, with how flipping lanky and tall he is, he wasn't the one to concede screamers. Although he conceded, remember the one, was it Henderson that scored that screamer at the bridge against us? But no goalkeeper in history will do anything about that one. But maybe it's just because Kepa is short, we think, if you were taller, you would have saved it. But we only say that because he is short. People forget Iker Casillas is 2 inches shorter than Kepa. Just being short doesn't stop you from being a top goalie. It's not the absolutely decisive factor. But did football change? Why did Casillas not concede long shots? They got 2 inches shorter than Kepa. Why didn't everyone just blast it from 30 yards against Casillas? I don't understand. But hey, it is what it is. I mean, I'll stay with you. Back 3. Obviously, Badiashile couldn't play in the Champions League and has been absolutely phenomenal in the Premier League when was given the chance. But Cucurella played wow on Tuesday. So who do you play then? Who do you play at left centre back? And I guess just finish it off in terms of who would you play as the whole back 3, but in particular starting with the left centre back. Who would you go for?
I think it has to be Cucurella. I love Benoit Badiashile, but the performance that Cucurella had, he just needs to continue that in the next couple of games. I don't see I don't see him getting dropped unless he's playing at left wing back to give Chilwell a rest. But even then, I don't think he's quite as effective at left wing back. And I think I reckon we just stick with the same back three, to be honest.
So Cucurella, Koulibaly, and Fofana?
Yeah.
There you go. I mean, with Thiago Silva obviously being out injured, other than Badiashile, you're not leaving anyone big out here. Pice, what do you think? First to start with left centre-back. Obviously, what Amit then touched on in terms of will Cucurella potentially play left wing-back? Maybe we'll play a back four because of Chile. But I think it's Tuesday to Saturday. Next week, we have a week off. I think you're fine just playing Chile. Look at how Chile's playing. Does Chile look like a man that's not fit? No. He might not be fully sharp yet in terms of, everything on the ball still after this is a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. But fitness-wise, my guy's fit. My guy's sprinting up and down that pitch every game he's playing. So I don't think that should be the worry. So just focusing on left centre-back and then the rest of the back three. Would you stick to Cucurella as well? Did you also think, I saw you tweet that compilation, so I'm sure you do. But how good was he on Tuesday, man? Like, who would have thought that would happen?
Bro, I'll tell you something. My brother, for some reason, hates Cucurella, thinks he's shit. And even he said he was unreal. I was like, okay. Well, no, he was amazing, honestly. Like, yeah, like the fans as well, like, they've definitely, slandered him in the stands, which I don't agree with at all. Booing our own players is just ridiculous. But yeah, he was amazing, and I think great management as well from Graham Potter to sort of come out and reveal that he was picking the right moment. And I think the same is happening with Mudryk. I'm pretty sure of it. So yeah, Graham Potter was saying how he wanted to keep him out of the spotlight. He was coming under fire. And he said, picking the game against Dortmund where we had the balance of his left foot in the back three, I thought he could do really well. So yeah, I was really impressed with that, to be fair, from Graham Potter, and it clearly worked because he was just so good, man. Like, I think the thing I noticed more than anything was like his aggression to get to the ball. Like, it was just like the old Cucurella. Like, sometimes I don't really think he's been, like he fades in and out of game, but from minute 1 to 90 of that game against Dortmund, he was just wow, like he was on it. So, and his passing, by the way, was so good, so good. His range, his line breaking passes from that centre back position, or constantly like down the line to Felix and Sterling when he was on the left. Like, yeah, there was a moment as well where like the ball was like, it was just like bouncing about, and he just rushed in and just played a little pass and calmed everything down, and he was just really, really good overall. So yeah, I would play him. I would play him again there tomorrow. Build on his confidence, definitely.
I agree. I think maybe we could talk about Badiashile in the central centre back position, but I agree. And also, someone said it in the chat. You need to reward Cucurella for a performance like this. Obviously, he got the man of the match award anyway, and the whole media and every Chelsea fan is praising him. So there was a lot of reward already as such. But I still think when you play like that, as much as Badiashile has been great, you deserve to play the next game. So therefore, I would agree. But would you stick to the same rest of the back three as Ami did in terms of Koulibaly and Fofana, or would you consider putting Badiashile in the middle potentially?
I'd play Badiashile personally. I thought Koulibaly was excellent, but I think Badiashile has been too good for us not to come back in. I don't want to see him on the bench.
Are you at all concerned because that would make our back three ridiculously young? Because even Cucurella is only 24, Badiashile is 21, Fofana is 21, 22. And that would be very young, taking all sorts of experienced leadership out of it. Would that be a bit risky, you think?
No, not for me.
Okay.
Not for me personally.
Let me think about this. I think I might have to.
I think personally the one that's least likely to play tomorrow is maybe Fofana, because of how much he's played, and he's only really just come back from injury. Maybe he doesn't play. Maybe Chalobah plays on the right hand side, but that's the only thing I was thinking of, really. Or maybe Koulibaly goes to the right, Badiashile in the middle, and then Cucurella on the left, because Koulibaly's played a bit on the right. Yeah. Not in a 3, but he has in the 4. And I mean, it's not that much different, is it? If anything, it helps him a bit more. So maybe that's what happens.
Possible. If we're doing Predict 11, I think that's certainly a shout to remember in my team. Because again, I as much as I sometimes do it, I'm like, well, I'm not in training. I'm not any of the doctors. I'm also not told by the doctors how fit they are. So I'm like, Fofana looks fit to me. So while he looks fit and is a centre back, let's not forget it's not like we're talking about a wing back or a centre mid here who sprints all game long, or runs all game long, shall I say? I think I'll vote you, unfortunately, Pies, and stick with Koulibaly and Fofana just because. And I feel harsh on Badiashile. I don't know. I just think it's so important that we win again now, because if we want this to be a turning point, if we want to show the fans like, okay, we can turn this around even under Potter, blah, blah, blah. Like there's no, I don't want to risk a super inexperienced back three tomorrow. I don't think tomorrow is the time for this. There's like, tomorrow is arguably more important than Leeds, because like, it's even more difficult. Like it's when you're in a bad run, it's difficult to win again, but it's even more difficult to keep winning after that, because you're not used to keep winning from your bad run before that. We had that one win against Palace, still didn't win the game after. So like that, and I think with how that worked the other day, I would just stick to it. I would just stick to it. But I understand, it's certainly the calls for Badiashile especially. I understand them completely. The wing backs, to me, honestly, are pretty straightforward. Like I say, I would stick to Ben Chilwell. I don't want any of this Mudryk right wing back business. That is crazy talk, in my opinion, because the guy doesn't even track back at winger. He can't be playing with left wing back. Even if, in terms of positionally on the pitch, it would work. No, the wing back has too many other duties to be doing that. I would much rather.
You say Mudryk don't track back?
Sorry?
Did you say Mudryk don't track back, or was that someone else? Mudryk has been tracking back loads, bro, whenever he's played.
Yeah, but he runs back, but he doesn't understand what he needs to do. Like he runs there. Yeah. And then like what goal was he that we conceded when, Cucurella was trying to drop off, but then Mudryk didn't close the guy down. I'm like, well, sure, communication and that is getting to know each other, but I'm like, he just doesn't seem like a guy that knows how to defend. Maybe Potter's taught him that over the last 2 weeks, and that's why he hasn't played. He's getting him ready to play wing back. Maybe, I don't know. But in terms of what I have seen, I'm like, I'd much rather try him in that position and actually see for myself what I think. Does it work? Does it not? Because let's not lie to ourselves. Even when we beat Leeds, were many of our front three any good? No. Even against Dortmund, Sterling scored, but otherwise was absolutely dreadful. Frankly, okay, absolute dreadful is maybe a bit harsh, but was really not good. Even if Mudryk doesn't work, that's not necessarily going to be the decisive factor in do we win or do we not. Clearly, you can win a game if one player doesn't play so amazing. So I would much rather see it happen first. So yeah, to me, Chilwell stays at left wing back, and obviously with Reece not being available, Ruben Loftus-Cheek plays right wing back. I really hope it's not Aspie, because I assume Aspie can play again now, because isn't it 2 weeks? You need to sit out after concussion, and it's over 2 weeks now, so I assume he could play. But I just, especially at right wing back, at right back, sure, but at right wing back, nah. Just play Ruben, man. Ruben does a job. Just play Ruben, okay? Just play Ruben. But Pice, would you agree with that, or would you do the Mudryk at left wing back situation thing, or Lewis Hall potentially?
No, I'd play what we have on screen right now, but I won't be like. I mean, I'll be intrigued to see what it's like if Mudryk plays left wing back, but I don't want.
Yeah, I'd be very intrigued too. I agree.
Yeah, no, I'd play this though. To be fair, I agree.
Fair. Amit, do you agree as well? Would you be a fan of the whole Mudryk at left wing back experiment?
Yeah, I agree with Joao left wing back. I don't think now's the time for experimenting. Maybe near the end of the season when we've got a couple games left and we're basically stuck in 7th or 10th or wherever we are. But yeah, not at the moment.
Fair enough. And would you stick to Ruben at right wing back as well, or would you go for somebody different?
No, it has to be Ruben. He's been playing well, deserves to start.
There you go. Sweet, short, precise. Love it. Big fan. I mean, someone in the chat saying Ziyech right wing back, Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Enzo in the pivot. I mean, like I say, even in our back 4 times, off the ball, we played the back 5 anyway, and then Ziyech had to do that job, but you see how it didn't work. So, yeah. Also, I still don't think we should be giving Ziyech any minutes. Not because I don't like him, but because we were willing to loan him to PSG. So he's clearly not in the plans, so stop using him. It's pointless to me. Pice, you were trying to say something?
I just said facts.
Okay.
Like, stop putting Ziyech in lineups, man.
Yeah, I agree. Emmanuel says Ben needs to rest. I understand where you're coming from with that. if the manager and the medical staff see that like you, I'm not going to be upset if Chilwell doesn't play. I'll be intrigued what we do then. Do we then play a back four? Because Cucurella is an ideal left wing back. Do we play Cucurella left wing back? Do we play Lewis Hall there? Mudryk there? Who knows? But, for the time being, I will stick to Chilwell at right wing back. Midfield then. Do we just stick with what we had? Amit, Kovacic and Enzo? Or do you play someone different?
No, I'd stick with Enzo, but I'd actually pair him up with Dennis, just to free up Enzo a bit more, let him play those passes and concentrate more on linking up our midfield to our attack, and then let Dennis concentrate on cleaning up behind him, basically.
Yeah, I mean, in my dream world, this is also what would happen. The problem is just that Potter seemingly doesn't see Zakaria as that guy to be sitting and cleaning up. I don't know. I really don't know about that one. I also don't know with Cobham, because first he was injured, then he was ill. Can he play 3 in a row? I don't know if he can. I wouldn't be surprised if Cobham doesn't start purely for Potter's rotational reasons. It's actually crazy. I'm not sure if people have thought about this. Enzo has started every single game since signing for us. Now, obviously, we didn't. The 2 Dortmund games were only midweek games in that whole period. So otherwise, it was only weekend to weekend. So it's not like the fitness thing was an issue. But still, it's kind of crazy. Joao Felix started every game that he wasn't suspended for as well, to be fair. But yeah, I would probably agree with what Amit went for, to be honest. Purely because we still haven't seen it. And I really want to see if that pivot works. Almost like with that, where I'm going to put Mudryk here later, where I'm like, I want to see it. And if it doesn't work, I can at least know for future reference in future decisions when I'm sat here predicting or picking my own team for the next day. At least then I know if I think this works. Now, one game is never enough proof for anything, but at least I get an idea. And so far, we haven't gotten to see Enzo and Zakaria together as a pivot. And I would like to see it. Pice, I know you're a huge fan of Kovac, but do you even want him to start 3 in a row? Because, we've known about a few of his injury concerns this season. So is it maybe smarter to not do that? Or would you stick with it regardless?
It's a difficult one. I would like to see Enzo and Zakaria, to be fair. I think we're all waiting for that. Zakaria to be the bit of the deeper one of the two. And then Enzo to go forward a little bit. But
this is true, by the way. But it's never my predictions. It's more, we don't place our predictions. We name our own team. But yeah, he is right. Sorry if I said interrupt. Go on.
Yeah, I do think we'll see some sort of rotation. Kovac didn't come off either, did he? So
no, he did, but very late on. I think like 87th for Zakaria.
Oh yeah, because Gallagher came on, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
I'd go Enzo and Zakaria, to be fair. But if I could predict, I think it will still be Enzo and Kovac.
It may well be. Kovac is the top player, yes. I agree. Kovac needs to play because we need a captain. Kepa will be fine as a captain if he is the one that's picked in that scenario. Don't think that's going to be the issue. But does Eugene say Kovac has weak mentality? You're Croatian. At least your Avi is a Croatian player. Should you be saying that about Kovac? Are you allowed to say that? I don't know about that one, Chief. But yeah, we'll keep the apples green. At the end of the day, we'll just have to see what happens tomorrow. But let's get to that front three. Do you agree with me, Pice, that if Sterling's now not available anyway, try with Mudryk? We've the whole thing is not being in the limelight now. Sterling isn't fit, so there's an opportunity to give him that chance, and maybe Klutz is right, and he can't play this position. But surely we need to see it first. Obviously, Potter can judge this from training, but I can't. So I want to see it. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I want to see him start. I do. I really want to see him start. I want to see him in the front three. I mean, this is what we bought him for. And I think this is the right moment. There's players out. Sterling's not available. Other attackers have played quite a bit. I think this is like the perfect game. I think Leicester as well, they're not a team that sit back. They're really not. Maybe if they go 1-0 up, they might. But I think, if we get hold of the game, Leicester, Chelsea tends to be quite a few goals. It's quite end-to-end. So just in general, really, Leicester have quite a lot of high-scoring games. So I think there's going to be opportunities, spacing behind, and play Mudryk. I think this could be the game for him. Hope so, anyway.
Fair dues. Before we finish off the front three, I'll take this to Ahmed. Number one, do you see some people? I'm not sure if you even know Clutch, if you've seen the streams enough. I assume you have. But do you agree with Clutch's thought that Mudryk, he's always wide? That's why he's always been a Shakhtar. And in this 3-4-3, obviously those inside forwards, they aren't wide. They are inside. And that's why he thinks that's not a position for him. Number one, do you agree with that? And number two, if you don't, are you also on board with myself on Pice that you just want to see it, like see if it works or not, rather than making a final judgment on something you haven't seen before?
I do agree. He does tend to stick wide, and I don't know. I think in that first game he played for us, he did drift into the midfield a bit, but not in an attacking sense. So he didn't cut in and shoot. So I actually don't think we're going to start Mudryk on the left. I think it'll be Felix.
Okay. But, I mean, I will still play Felix. I would just play him there because I don't think to Felix it matters much, to be honest, which side he plays on. Because, realistically, it's also part... I mean, with Sterling and Havertz, it was a lot of like this, with basically Felix the 10 behind. So I don't think it matters to Felix if he's on the left or on the right, personally. So if I told you Felix is on the right, would you then want Mudryk on the left, or would you just play Felix on the left and someone completely different on the right?
I think Potter's going to start Mount on the right or the left, either one.
That's what Potter said. I'm not. Well, he said he isn't ready. I don't know if that means he will be in the squad at all or not, but it certainly can't start, I think.
Okay, in that case, Mudryk and Felix.
Okay. I mean, there is certainly a shout to be made for Christian Pulisic, as an example. He made his comeback from injury in the last game. Looked okay when he came on, to be fair to him. And also he was picked over Mudryk to come on. So maybe that gives us a bit of a hint what we could see. Obviously, Mudryk is there. He wasn't allowed to play in the Champions League. He could be playing again here. And obviously Hakim Ziyech. I mean, Pice, what about you? Right side then. Is it just as simple as Felix, or could you even see, especially if we did predicted rather than our own team, could you see a Pulisic starting? Or who do you think it will be if it's maybe not Mudryk?
If I had a predicted front three, it would actually be Felix, Madueke. I think Mudryk will come off the bench, but I want Mudryk and Felix. Okay. I also want Madueke, but I don't think
I think what Clutch says about Mudryk applies way more to Madueke, personally. From what I've seen of Madueke, it applies way more that he needs to be in the wide area than it applies to Mudryk. From what I've seen, because Madueke, all he's done really for us is dribble. Mudryk has passed, tried, not successfully dribbled much, I will say, but he's done different things. Madueke has done the same thing every time he touched the ball. So, to me, there's much more evidence that he can only do one thing at this moment in time because he's young and, fresh. But, that's what I think anyway. But, I agree. I would put Felix here as well. I don't know my prediction 11.
It's the problem.
I think there's a chance Pulisic starts, I'll be perfectly honest with you. But I don't know. Go on, Terry, you were saying?
It's the problems you get with a three at the back. You've only got two. You only got two wide forwards. So,
absolutely, no, it's true. It's very true. I mean, hey, maybe Potter will go with the back four tomorrow anyway to maybe rest Chilwell. Then that problem fixes itself, and then we could have Mudryk, Felix, and Madueke and Pulisic. Who knows? I mean, has already said Felix on the right hand side. Pice, I want a quick word about Kai Havertz on Tuesday. Not because I'm trying to not because I'm trying to rub anything in, but
he played very well. Yes.
No, I think we're all aware that he did. But as much as I'm more defensive of him than, for example, you are, less critical of him than you are, all of us agree that he's certainly not been good enough in the grand scheme of things. And even me, as much as I defend him and like him, even me, it fucking pisses off that why can you play like that against Dortmund?
Against harder teams, but then against shit teams in the Prem, you can't perform. It annoys me as well. I don't understand.
He literally
It's like he has like an on switch. It's like, oh shit, I'm in the Champions League. Bang, I'm going to start playing like I was paid, bought for. It's annoying.
It's but like to me, I can't, like, obviously he's been here for a while and he's played a lot of games, but I genuinely can't think of many games where he played better. Now he scored more goals in some games and stuff, and had more goal contribution in some games and stuff, and obviously he did need that luck of getting that penalty, being allowed to retake it. But I still can't remember him playing many games better than he played Tuesday. So we talked about turning point for the team. We talked about turning point for Potter. Could it be a turning point for Havertz as well? Or is this just the typical Havertz where it's like, well, he will play, we will give you one very good game every once in a while, but then he's going to do what he usually does?
Yeah, I've done 300 potential turning points with Havertz.
Yeah.
I don't think he's gonna. I mean, he might play well tomorrow, but I just don't think he's gonna find consistent form in the Prem. There's always debate over where he's gonna play. I mean, that's one that we really haven't actually talked about quite a bit because, like, if Bayern don't want him, like, could he go to another Premier League team? I mean, you've got Chelsea want a striker. Felix and Kunku, like, where the hell's Havertz going to play when we've got all these wide forwards as well? Like, it's weird. Is he going to be the backup number 9? Will he be fine with that? I don't know, but yeah, it's another interesting one to be fair. But he played amazing against Dortmund. It's just annoying, really, that he doesn't produce this. He can have a bad game, but just don't go on a game like 3 games where you're just absolute shit. Like, it's annoying. And by the way, he needs to just shoot more because I know it was offside, Sterling was offside, but that goal was literally a repeat of the Salzburg goal.
Yeah.
Absolute repeat. Like, if he gets in that position, just shoot because he clearly
and
has
the volley he took that hit the inside of the post.
Yeah, that one as well, bro. I was like, that. I didn't even know who shot that. Like, it happened so quick when I was in the stadium, but I watched it on the replay and it was an absolute banger. Like, why does he not shoot more? I don't understand.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. But I assume you agree that he has to start tomorrow, obviously. I mean, Aubameyang's out. We haven't seen Fofana since he last started. We haven't seen him ever. So, it is going to be him anyway. But I assume you also agree that it should be.
Yeah, I mean, you could play Felix up there, but I think Kai will start. I mean, he's got confidence. So, yeah, I must say, I don't know what you guys felt, but I wasn't sure about him taking the penalty for the second time. But I'm glad he did in the end. It's just interesting because I was, in the Matthew Hyland end, you can kind of see what the players are doing. And originally Reece James picked the ball up and he walked to the penalty spot, but it was kind of like, you remember when someone done that for Jorginho, where they grabbed the ball and then to take the pressure off him?
No, it was Aspie for Havertz.
That's it. Yeah,
in the cup final.
And Felix actually, there was a load of Dortmund players surrounding James, and then Felix stood on the penalty spot because they were trying to, just so they couldn't scuff it up or anything. Yeah. Thought that was quite funny.
Yeah, it was very good. It was very good. It was interesting. Havertz and Sterling gave an interview post-match together, and I'm not sure if everyone saw it, but Havertz in that interview actually said the second penalty was easier than the first one, which I found mind-boggling, to be honest, because how can that be? I don't know. But that's what he said, unless he accidentally, obviously English not being his first language, maybe he didn't mean to say that, but he certainly did say it. So, find that a bit crazy. Hey, if he thinks the second one was easier, my guy has got confidence, and fair play to him.
Well, he rarely misses penalties, does he? So, no, maybe the fact that he missed one, he was like, yeah, I'm not missing the next one. So that's the only thing I could probably think of, but yeah,
maybe so. I mean, a lot of people are talking about in the chat here about Pulisic will start or will play at least. I agree, will play. I'm just not sure if he will start because he's come back.
He only played like 3 minutes. He won't start.
Yeah, he played like 10 odd minutes. He's been out for 2 months. Will he just straight start the second game? That's the part I doubt. I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe starts next week, depending on Sterling's fitness.
He looked very sluggish as well.
Did he? I thought he looked quite good,
No, I think he looked quite sluggish. He was a few times where he was down my side and he was just I think he was trying to hold the ball up. Sluggish.
Yeah, once he got mugged right off by Emery.
He wasn't sharp, but that's expected. I mean, he's not played in ages, so I wouldn't start him. But if there's a chance to bring him off the bench, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. People are also saying one of the reasons why Havertz was so good is that he wasn't constantly the main striker, because Sterling often pushed up and played that kind of striker role, and that you're not wrong with that. And I also understand that Mudryk hasn't really done that much, but Mudryk has even more pace than Sterling. And Sterling is completely incapable in front of goal at the moment anyway. I know he scored, but we also all saw the moment, 3 minutes into the game? He was offside anyway, but he just stood in front of the goalkeeper and just didn't do anything. Like, what are you doing, Sterling, man? My God. So we can still do that. Will we still do that if it is those 3? Different question, but we could. So that's that one. But Amit, obviously, I assume you're going to agree. And Kai Havertz, again, Aubameyang isn't available. Fofana, I very much doubt you will say we should play or will play. But what are your thoughts on Kai anyway? And then also the performance against Dortmund. Like, what would you think? Like, could it be a turning point for Kai Havertz as well? Or, like I asked Pice, is it just one of those every so often that he turns up with a brilliant minutes?
I do actually like Havertz. I'm one of those guys that liked Werner as well.
Ruin it.
I think he will stay beyond the summer. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. He played quite well. He didn't fully press, but the times that he did, he pushed Dortmund back or won the ball. So yeah, he had a great game and definitely deserves to start again.
Fair dues. I mean, the law sign, it's fluid anyway. But Emmanuel, the funny thing about this is, what about all the others then? Because like, Havertz was our best player. So if Havertz was only good because it was a Bundesliga team, the others were not as good against the Bundesliga team. So does that mean their level is below the Bundesliga? Like, football is not this simple. Come on, bro. Surely you know that. But
I was going to say that to annoy the Kai stands on Twitter, but
I get it. But like, I get it in terms of to purposely annoy someone. I don't understand why you would bring up that argument. But in terms of if you actually deep it, you're like, well, so why did Felix miss every chance against Bundesliga sides? And is he not even good enough for that? Like, do you know what I mean? Clearly he is, but you know, if you want to ride on certain agendas or certain storylines, then you can. Then you can. You take that. To be fair to you, Emmanuel, you take that. To finish this one off, boys, let's say with this team or whatever Potter turns up with, do you reckon we win again tomorrow, Amit? Are you always ever the optimist like I am? Or do you actually think we're going to turn up again? Or do you fear, okay, we turn up for Dortmund, now it's back to what it was before that?
I think Leicester have lost their last 4 odd games or something. And with our confidence boost, I can definitely see us getting a 2-0 win or something.
They lost their last 4, correct. Southampton in the league, Blackburn in the FA Cup, Arsenal, and Man United. To be fair, they had a tough run before that. They had Spurs, United, and Arsenal in a row. That's not an easy run. My God. But yeah, no, you are right. And hey, I bloody hope so. But like Clutch touched on, they're just so, you just don't know what you're going to get. Like I say, before those 4 losses, they beat Spurs 4-1. And look at us against Spurs. So like, do you know what I mean? So there's always a chance we get absolutely, well, I don't think we get spanked. There's a reason we have the second best defense in the league. But there's always a chance we bottle it somehow and get a 1-1 draw, a 0-0, or lose 1-0 or whatever. Could always happen. But if I forced you to give a score prediction, Amit, what would you say?
2-0.
I'll take it. Pice, what would you say? What would be your score prediction? Do you reckon we win again?
I wish you hadn't told me they had lost their last 4, because usually we're charity FC and turn things around for teams. But
that is true.
You know what? I'm going to be positive. Maybe it comes back to bite me. I'm going to say 2-1 Chelsea. I think their defence is there to be got at. And I think a Chilwell Fofana goal would send me to the moon tomorrow, because their fans absolutely, apparently, they're going to boo the living hell out of them. And I just hope that really just spurs them on to just score, especially Chilwell. Like Fofana, he might be a bit surprised that they boo him, but
Chilwell's seen it before.
Chilwell's seen it before, and I love him to score against Leicester. That'd be fucking class.
Yeah, exactly. I always regret that FA Cup final goal of his didn't stand.
Oh, don't, man. Don't. Honestly, that's the worst. Oh, my God.
It was so annoying. It was so close as well. My God.
Oh, my God.
I'm going to say 3-1. I don't really know why I think we're going to concede, to be honest. I don't. But I don't really see us winning 3-0. So I'm saying 3-1. But I have a feeling and a hope that the goals against Dortmund, as much as they were lucky, and the second one, well, the first one was lucky, the second one was a penalty and lucky. I hope that was a little bit of confidence, a little bit of a spark that the attack needed to actually start getting some goals. Because we almost always create enough chances to score 2 or 3. We just happen to usually only take none or 1. So, and also it could do us really well with getting more than 2 goals for the first time since October. I think that will be another step in the right direction and to having a good end to the season, whatever that may lead to in terms of finishing position in the league table. the more we just improve our confidence, just kick on from here, the more likely we are to beat whoever we might get drawn against in the quarterfinals as well. And at the end of the day, it's all we want. That is all we want. People talking about Badiashile, he might well play tomorrow. But yeah, like we said, I think Cucurella deserves to start at left centre back. And then it's a question, do I want a back three with only young players? Seems risky. So that's why I didn't put him in. But we all love Badiashile, I think. What a player, what a signing. But ladies and gentlemen, it's about time we're on this one. I've not told you anywhere near often enough this stream. So if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That will be massively appreciated. Hit the like button as well on your way out. Just one click of a button that doesn't cost you any money or any time. And it really helps me out. So let's get to at least 100, if not 150 likes on your way out. Just like I say, one click of a button. Hit that. Really appreciate it. Helps me spread these videos and streams out to more people. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Shout out to Pice. Shout out to Amit. Amit's first time. I think you did very well, mate. Appreciate it. Maybe we'll have you on a few more times in the future. As always, please do check out Pice's website. Link is down in the description below, chelseafc365.com, as well as his Twitter. And of course, follow me on Twitter as well if you fancy that. Last1507 over there. I'm getting very close to 10,000 subscribers, followers. So please help me get that. So that would be nice. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.